Hello and welcome back. My name is Jack B, and as always, thank you for viewing my video. The topic of this video looks at the quietly released 2025 national security strategy of the Trump administration and its alignment to Putin's vision of the world. For the longest time, I could not understand why Trump was letting Putin get away with literally murder. Trump inserted himself between Russia and Ukraine. The excuse provided was he was the great negotiator and peacemaker. But all Trump did was try to force Zelensky to surrender to Putin under Putin's demands. Trump continually praised Putin and degraded Zelensky. Trump refused to sell Zelensky the munitions he needed to repel Putin. Trump invited Putin, a war criminal, to U.S. soil in Alaska and gave him the red carpet treatment. Trump put tariffs on everyone, including our allies, except Putin. I found all this baffling. The Putin-Zelensky scenario puts me in mind of a very similar scenario that occurred just before World War II. In 1938, Hitler demanded part of Czechoslovakia be given to Germany. If this did not happen, then Hitler would start a war and invade Czechoslovakia. In September 1938, England, France, Italy, and Germany signed the Munich Agreement, wherein Germany would receive part of Czechoslovakia, Sudetenland, and in return, Hitler promised not to invade or start a war. Well, 6 months later, in March 1939, Hitler invaded and captured the rest of Czechoslovakia. Then, on September 1, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, starting his maniacal campaign to conquer the world. I mention this short bit of history because people like Hitler and Putin are both nefarious and both are war criminals. You cannot trust them. Putin will not stop. I researched Putin's philosophy about Russia and his geopolitical vision. I understand his direction, but I don't think he or his supporters will stop at only part of the world. They will ultimately see the world as their oyster for their taking. A central theme of Putin's ideology is the restoration of Russia's former prestige and power lost after the Soviet Union's collapse. His deepest desire is for Russia to be an indispensable global player, without whom no geopolitical equilibrium is possible. He wants to acquire all former Soviet states as well as any other country he deems necessary for the sovereignty of Russia. Putin believes the world should be controlled by a small number of great powers, including Russia. These great powers would respect each other's spheres of influence and set the rules for the international system. Putin rejects a world order dominated by a single superpower, such as the United States. Putin strongly emphasizes the principle of state sovereignty for Russia and is adamantly against external interference in internal affairs. It is nobody's business what Russia does or where it does it. He sees Western actions, such as NATO expansion, as violations of this principle and threats to Russia's security. Putin believes that a strong military, especially a modern nuclear arsenal, is crucial for safeguarding Russia's sovereignty and ensuring its role in the global balance of power. He views Russia's military might as an indispensable power for maintaining global security. I will just interject here that I think Putin is living in the past. In essence, Putin envisions a world where a few strong independent states, such as Russia, China, and the U.S., among others, act as the primary decision makers. Rather than have a system based on universal rules, international institutions, such as the UN, which he views as paralyzed by Western influence, or democratic norms. Putin's worldview does not focus on a traditional concept of ruling the world, but rather on establishing Russia as one of several independent major global powers in a new hemisphere-centric world order. He is determined to disrupt and destroy the existing U.S.-led liberal international system, which he views as a hypocritical dictatorship that threatens Russia's sovereignty. Alexander Dugin is a Russian far-right political philosopher. He is the leading theorist of Russian neo-Euro-Asianism. Russians call him Putin's brain. Dugin advocates for a multipolar, hemisphere-centric world order where Russia is one major pole, along with others such as China and Iran, challenging American Western hegemony. He views Russia as a distinct state civilization destined to lead a new Eurasian empire. Dugin has laid out a blueprint for Russian expansionism, specifically calling for the annexation of Ukraine, which he argues has no geopolitical meaning as an independent state. He supports the war in Ukraine and believes its subsumption is necessary for Russia to become an empire once more. Dugin has provided a philosophical foundation for foreign parties that oppose the European Union and Western liberalism and that disrupts political unity. His views have been adopted by far-right political groups such as the German National Democratic Party, the British National Party, Golden Dawn in Greece, Jobbik in Hungary, and the National Front in France. Dugin has endorsed Trump's policies. He pushes a Kremlin-sponsored endorsement of Trump's divisive effect on U.S. politics, which weakens the U.S. His endorsement of Trump should be seen in its context. Russia attempting to strengthen itself at the expense of the U.S. Listening to or reading Dugin's conversations are like looking into the mind of Putin. At this point, I want to inject my belief that today Russia is not really a superpower. The characteristics of a superpower are, number one, a superpower has a large and influential economy with their currency and markets often used as global benchmarks. Russia misses the mark on this one. Number two, a superpower has a dominant military capable of projecting power anywhere in the world, which includes both advanced technology and the ability to deploy forces globally. Russia also misses the mark on this one. They need troops from North Korea, drones from Iran, and munitions and finance from the CCP. Number three, a superpower has a strong diplomatic influence and the ability to persuade other nations to take certain actions. I would suggest they miss this one too. Number four, a superpower's influence is not limited to a single region. They can project power and conduct a global strategy. Russia tries but fails. Number five, a superpower can also project soft power, influencing other nations through their culture and ideology. Russia may be able to do this. All in all, I would suggest Putin is still living in the USSR era, which no longer exists. He desperately wants the former USSR back together again so that Russia can be a superpower. At this point, Putin is just trying to hang around the superpowers. When I read the 2025 National Security Strategy, which was quietly released by the Trump administration on December 4th, 2025, it was an aha moment. First, there is too much homage paid to Trump. You would think the earth would stop rotating if it weren't for Trump. But I can see why there is such an attraction between Putin and Trump. The new 2025 National Security Strategy appears to fit hand in glove with Putin's vision of the world ruling powers. In a nutshell, Trump is reducing America's influence from being worldwide to being regional or hemispheric. Its concepts of America's influence seem to be a mutated form of isolationism. But it allows for expansionism anywhere in the world, at the behest of the U.S. president if America's security or needs are in jeopardy. As a note, not stated in the 2025 National Security Strategy, the Western Hemisphere is defined as everything west of the prime meridian, 0-degree longitude, to the 180-degree meridian. It primarily includes all countries in North America, South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, plus surrounding waters. It technically also contains parts of Europe, e.g. Portugal and UK, Africa, e.g. Ghana and Morocco, and Antarctica. The Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine stands out quite loud in the 2025 National Security Strategy publication. The Trump corollary asserts U.S. preeminence in the Western Hemisphere, blocking foreign interference, combating drug trafficking and migration, and ensuring U.S. access to key resources and locations, emphasizing American control over its destiny in the hemisphere against globalist interests. It modifies the original Monroe Doctrine by focusing on economic nationalism, cultural security, and a redefined military posture to counter threats such as cartels and competitors, particularly from China, while prioritizing the Americas. It goes on to state, successfully protecting our hemisphere also requires closer collaboration between the U.S. government and the American private sector. Additionally, the U.S. government's critical relationships with the American private sector help maintain surveillance of persistent threats to U.S. networks, including critical infrastructure. For far too long, American policy in Africa has focused on providing and later spreading liberal ideology. The United States should instead look to partner with select countries to ameliorate conflict, foster mutually beneficial trade relationships, and transition from a foreign aid paradigm to an investment and growth paradigm capable of harnessing Africa's abundant natural resources and latent economic potential. The U.S. will unapologetically do whatever is necessary anywhere in the world to protect America's interests and security. The United States cannot allow any nation to become so dominant that it could threaten our interests. The success of radical ideologies that seek to replace competence and merit with favored group status would render America unrecognizable and unable to defend itself. At the same time, we cannot allow meritocracy to be used as a justification to open America's labor market to the world in the name of finding global talent that undercuts American workers. Who a country admits into its border, in what numbers and from where, will inevitably define the future of that nation. The days of the United States propping up the entire world order like Atlas are over. The 2025 National Security Strategy goes on to define all the needs and wants of the United States. The National Security Council has been directed to immediately begin a robust interagency process to task agencies supported by our intelligence community's analytical arm to identify strategic points and resources in the Western Hemisphere with a view to their protection and joint development with regional partners. The above excerpts from the 2025 National Security Strategy make it abundantly clear to me that our national security strategy is aligned with Putin's vision of the world. It is my opinion that Putin is just a bully who will blow up things just as he always has if he doesn't get his way. It is also my opinion that Trump will not intervene in Ukraine and Russia will ultimately get everything it wants, just as Putin stated the other day when he visited India. Putin defiantly stated he will acquire the Donbas region one way or another. Trump can and will obtain other land acquisitions for the U.S. either by negotiation, blackmail, or military action. What will Trump do when China invades Taiwan during his term of office? It appears the world stage is set. Hold on for the ride. The billionaires are in control. Well, these are my thoughts for today. And again, whether you agree or disagree, please verify the information presented. Thank you, and until next time, take care and be safe. Ooh.